Hey everybody, we got week number 2 with the New England Cartel series. This week, 2020 MMA Coach of the Year, Mr. Tyson Chartier. This episode was filmed in the industrial region of Boston, Massachusetts. We are going down into the dungeon, the New England Cartel gym. Let's fucking go.
Every decision you make, how would you want other people to judge that decision? No one has to be here, like, we get to be here. There's not a one size fits all, like, here's what I say to fighters before they walk out. It's like, everybody's different. We got on the shuttle for maybe like 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden we just hear a bunch of screaming. If they called me at 3 in the morning, I'll pick up and I'll do it, you know, whatever it was. I did try everything that I was capable of trying.
This is the I Am Redemption podcast, and today we are here with the head coach of the New England Cartel, the 2020 MMA Coach of the Year, Mr. Tyson Chartier. How are you doing today, sir?
Not bad, how you doing?
Dude, I'm doing very well. Honored to be here. Thank you for letting us come in your house and check everything out, watch practices, talk to the fighters. Can't thank you enough, man.
No, it's been good. It's not often people fly in to do these things, so it's good to have the group here. You guys have all been accommodating. It's good to meet new people.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you. Bro, so you started off as a fighter. You're now a coach of one of the best groups in MMA, in my opinion. How was that transition for you, coming up as a fighter and then transitioning into the coach role?
I think it was like a natural progression. Like, I started fighting just as a hobby, and then, you know, I was amateur, then I turned pro, and like as I turned pro, some of my teammates just needed help. Like, I was a little more advanced than them in Jiu-Jitsu, and I had wrestled, and they were mostly strikers, and they were a little younger. So I was like, oh, let me help you with this, let me help you with that. And I was getting all my own fights, so I started getting them fights too. And then as I was running my own career, I started cornering all of them, and I started coaching them, and I started getting them their fights. And next thing you know, like, some of those guys are getting in the UFC, and then now I'm cornering UFC fighters. So it was never like, you know, I went to grad school. I have like an MBA. I was in tech sales. I was making good money, and I left all that to do this full time, but that was never the plan. It just kind of happened. And it was never like I got to transition to coaching. I just got like banged up, got injuries, and just kept helping my friends like I was doing already. Right. And then next thing I just wasn't fighting anymore, and now I was just a coach. So. Right.
Dude, it's a beautiful thing. One of the things, I work with a lot of clients. I work with people in drug and alcohol recovery, and so my thing with them is trying to help them discover a passion. I'd lost my way for so long, and I was just passionless. And so when I got into fitness and running, I discovered this passion, changed my life. And so basically, like, it sounds like at one point you kind of took a leap of faith to, you know what I mean? You're passionate about the fight game, passionate about your people and your fighters, your team and stuff like that. Like, that has to be cool to transition from doing tech sales into being able to do what you're passionate about every day.
Yeah, it definitely was like, I didn't chase money. You know, I chased the passion part, and for years it was like for free. You know, I was volunteering, and I'm fortunate that my wife was, you know, supportive of it, and I had some money saved up, so I was able to like float myself, and she helped to just be a volunteer and turn it into something. I think a lot of people don't have that you know, kind of nest egg or that support, but I was blessed that I did have that, and I just kept like believing that, like, listen, if I just keep helping my friends and just keep doing the right things, like, the money will come, you know. And I'm still saying that sometimes, you know, but no, it's just like, it was very organic. To be able to find something that you're passionate about, like, I still have that feeling on Sunday nights of like, oh, tomorrow's Monday. Really? Like, because of how I'd feel about having to go back and sit in the office and sit in a cubicle. And now it's like I get to go to work on Monday. The weekends are harder because I have 3 kids at home. Now it's like, when I come here, you get a bunch of young, hungry guys that are, you know, chasing a dream, and I'm part of that, and I'm fortunate to be part of it, that it doesn't feel like work. It can be stressful, and it can be like very hard at times, but like, I would not trade what I'm doing now for what I was doing before. Like, I'm very lucky.
Right. Dude, I talk just exactly what you just said. I talk about it all the time, about I don't have those days anymore where you have that dreaded, like, fuck, I gotta go to work today, and it's just you driving there and you just hate life. Now every day I wake up, I'm excited to do what I'm doing, I'm passionate about it, and it's helping people, watching it change their lives. It's basically the same thing for you, watching these guys work towards their dreams, achieve their dreams, right?
Yeah, it's very rewarding to see like some of these people that when you met them, they were like a cashier at a gas station,
Right.
making minimum wage and kind of like not a lot of direction, and then you meet them, they meet you, and it's like there's synergy there. Like, you say, hey, listen, like you're pretty good at this, like let's steer the ship in this direction, this could turn into something, and then
Right.
they believe in your vision, and they believe in the course that you're bringing them on, and then little by little they start chipping away, and then now you see those guys now like owning houses with multiple cars, bringing kids into the world, and like having money in the bank, and like I won't ever like take credit and say that's because of me, but knowing that I played a role in that is like super rewarding. So I look at it's like you know this, it's like more enjoyable helping other people, and I figure if my goal and my dreams can be making other people's dreams come true and being part of that, it's so rewarding. And
Good.
it's not rewarding like with this stuff, but it's rewarding like in those moments where you see like your fighter like buy that new house or like bring a kid into the world,
Yep.
and they're able to like provide for them, unlike they would be able, they have a better childhood than they had themselves,
Yeah.
and knowing that like you played a role in that, it's like it's very rewarding. So like beyond the finances and the wins and the losses and the cameras and stuff like that, like that's the stuff that like that's more of a legacy than it is like just the sport.
Yeah. As I sat here and I was watching practice yesterday, like, I mean, it's iron sharpens iron. Like, I was sitting there watching it. And one of the analogies I always use with the people I work with is I use football as an analogy. And I'm like, all right, you have to discover what's your Super Bowl. Like, what is the most important thing in the world? And so a lot of the people I'm talking about, it's them getting out of trouble with the law, them getting sober and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, if you decide that that's your Super Bowl, awesome. Now, you need to look what you need to have in place. Number one, the most important piece in my journey and a lot of these people's journey is the team around them. Who are the people you're surrounding yourself around? And we all know what happens when one bad apple can come into that bunch and can ruin the whole thing. And then the other thing is you obviously have to have a good coach. Somebody who's been there, somebody who's walked the life and can direct you where you need to go. And then obviously a game plan, what your direction is and stuff like that. And I'd always used football as the analogy, but I sat here yesterday and was like, oh, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with MMA. It would probably be the same thing with any other sport. But what is it like for you to sit back and like watch a team gel or watch new people come into it and them adapt and stuff like that, and watching them do that, because you guys have a culture here?
Man, I think that's what I struggle with the most is like building the team dynamic, balancing it all out. Like that, I'll be honest, like that's one of the things that like I need to get better at, and that's like a bulk of my schedule now is like talking to the other coaches, talking to the young fighters, talking to the older fighters, because they all want different things, and then you're trying to get the coaches on the same board with the team, but then like with my vision, but then also with the fighters' visions, and you have like all these silos. You have the grappling coach, the boxing coach, the Muay Thai coach, and like they all got other jobs too. So it's like I'm the glue that tries to put all that together, but I'm trying to do it in a manner that creates a culture that I have in this vision that I have, and it's definitely extremely difficult. It's necessary, but like I would say like it definitely takes a team, but it's very hard to like build the culture of that team. So like I think you said like it's to sit back and like watch like how this. I feel like I wish I could sit back and watch.
Right,
I feel like the whole time like I'll leave sometimes thinking like, oh, that was a great practice, and then next thing you know, like you hear like, oh, I heard practice wasn't great. They didn't like the drill you did, So it's just like you got to be able to like filter out like.
Right, or else you'll be up in your head.
Yeah, you just can't
second-guessing
overthink
everything.
a lot of it. Like I always say this, like, my Super Bowl would be like, all right, we're trying to chase a UFC belt, but like I can't make that my Super Bowl, because then all the decisions I make would be about like one little
Just
path.
that.
So like my vision and my Super Bowl right now is building like the best team culture that I can, because I truly believe if we have like the closest team that has each other's back and like believes in each other's visions, everybody will achieve more.
Yep.
Like then now we have, maybe instead of just one guy that has a chance to win a UFC belt, like maybe now we have 4 or 5 guys, and then when that happens, all the other young guys are going to start steering in our direction. Then we'll have more guys beneath them, and it's it's definitely like a work in progress. But I truly believe like if I can just focus on building like the toughest, smartest, and like most unselfish team, I think we can do big things in the sport.
Right.
So
I think, in my opinion, just from what I saw yesterday and today, you're doing it because the way people, one practice was done, there was a break, and then there's another practice. Everybody's hanging around. Everybody knows who has fights going on. They're staying there. They're going hard and helping them out. Like, it was cool to see. I never saw the inside like that. You said, we were talking earlier or yesterday, and you were saying, and I had never thought of it like this, but a fighter has a fight camp. He gets ready. He has his fight. Well, when he's done with his fight, he's now kind of off for a little bit, and you're immediately on to the next fighter, next fight camp and stuff like that. So you don't get that break or anything like that. Like, how do you deal with that?
I mean, you just got to accept it for what it is. Like, right. And I always look at it as like, it's perception. I could sit here and be like, wow, out of everybody in this room, like, I'm the one that doesn't get a break after a fight. They all get breaks and I have to keep going. But it's like, I'm also not the one getting hit in the face.
Sure.
So,
right.
So there's that. I'm also the one that doesn't have to diet and make the weight. Like, so there's like definitely pros on that side, but I'm also the one that doesn't have to sit at a cubicle anymore.
Yep.
I don't have to like dread what I do on Monday morning. Like, and I always say it like, if we have a couple team models, but one of them is like, you don't have to do this. Like, you get to do this. And like, we're truly like, everybody that's in this room is blessed to be here because we don't let everybody in the room. So like, you're blessed from that angle that you're allowed to be here. And that's not being cocky, but it's just true. Like, we try to keep a safe environment. Not everybody's allowed in the room. So like, we're blessed in that element, but we're also blessed that like, you have support at home that allows you to be here. Because a lot of these guys don't work. They're amateur fighters, they're young pro fighters. They're not making enough money fighting to support what they're doing, but so they have family support. So like, you're blessed to have like a support system around you that allows you to come in here and chase your Super Bowl.
Right.
So I always look at it as like, no one has to be here. Like, we get to be here. So as long as you just shift your mindset to that all the time, it'll like help a lot from going down that negative path. Because negativity just breeds more negativity, and like complaining breeds more complaining. And I think it's like, I just gotta like lead from the top and like show like, listen, I'm gonna show up. I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be prepared for you guys for a good session, and just take it one session at a time. And then just like over time, little improvements make big changes, Right. And it's, I just believe it's like, I put my head down, lead by example, don't complain, keep a positive attitude, and like, just give these people what I want them to give me. I think eventually you'll weed out the sour apples. Everybody will kind of fall in line, and then you'll have this like super team.
Right. That's awesome. I know, so I'm a personal trainer, and that's one of the kind of tools that I use with the people in the recovery world is introducing them into a healthy avenue to channel all that energy. But when I started doing that, one of the things I had the most difficulty was dealing with the varying degrees of success or lack thereof. You know what I mean? Like, I put my heart and soul into somebody, I give them my best, and then they relapse or something happens to them. They just kind of fall off, stop coming. And then you have your other ones that's like, I have my certain clients that like, I look at them and I'm like, all right, this is why I do what I do. Like, you guys make it, you guys get it and stuff like that. Like, is it similar for you? Like, I mean, obviously guys get hurt, guys, we talked yesterday about some guys who've had issues with, their own issues in life and stuff like that. What's that like for you? Like, because I'm sure I could tell you're a passionate guy, as am I. And so it's like investing yourself in that and then it doesn't work out. Like, it hit me hard when it didn't.
It's hard not to take it personal, especially when these guys lose. You always think like, oh, what could I have done differently? Right. I mean, even if they go out there and fight and don't listen to a single thing you worked on in camp or what you're saying in the fight, it's easy for like, I would say a lesser coach, I don't mean that in a cocky way, but like a coach that didn't care as much to just be like, well, he didn't listen, it's not my fault. But then I'm thinking like, all right, well, what's one level past that? Is like, is there a different way I could have delivered it so maybe they would have listened? So like, is it my fault that they didn't listen? Like, and part of it has to be yes, because it takes two. Like, so like, how can I get messaging across to different fighters in a way that like has an impact and will result in like action, the action that we want. So it's tough. And I think when you're dealing with people, like, you're not going to be the personal trainer for everybody. And I think it takes a little while for you to realize that, like, you can be a great personal trainer, but it doesn't mean someone's going to come to you and not be successful, right? They can easily come and it's just they don't listen, or what you're saying doesn't resonate with them in a certain way. So there's not like a one size fits all. Like, you might not be the trainer for everybody, and I understand that. Like, I'm not going to be the coach for everybody. There's going to be certain people that want a different style. They want, more personality, less personality, whatever it might be. Like, I know I'm not the coach for everybody. So like, those people will end up weeding themselves out, and I can't just like use that as a cop out either. That's where it's always like that, like, give and take. Like, I don't want to use it as a cop out. Like, well, it didn't work out because I'm not the coach for him. It's like, well, could I have been the coach for him if I had adjusted my style a little bit more? Because I can't coach everybody the same way. Like if Nico's listened to me, he's mic'd me up a bunch of times in corners, and I don't coach every guy the same way. I don't give them the same pep talk before. There's not a one size fits all, like here's what I say to fighters before they walk out. It's like everybody's different, and you're reading the room, you're reading the vibe, you're reading how the camp went. So you got to adjust your style to like that individual. And like in our sport, like, you got football, you bet football. The best teams are going to go what, like 14-3 now? Mm-hmm. But what's the best team in baseball do? 600?
Right.
So you're going to go 6-4, and now you're the best team.
Yeah.
That's really what MMA is. But MMA is almost even worse than that, because you got like, if I have 10 fighters walk in the room, if I'm lucky, 2 could go to the UFC, maybe. And if they go to the UFC, the odds are, if you're just saying, what are the odds if they go to the UFC? They're going to lose 2 and they're going to get cut. Because that's what most people go to the UFC. If you have 100 guys go to the UFC, probably 80 of them are going to lose 2 or 3 fights, get released, never get to the, and I've never like crunched the numbers.
Right,
but like realistically, like that's what's going to happen,
right.
Every year you have 100 guys go to the Contender Series, 50 guys win and 50 guys lose, And then of those 50 guys that win, maybe 30 or 40 of them get contracts. And of those 30 or 40, probably less than a third of them make it to their second contract.
Wow.
That's just how it is. It's very cutthroat. So if you start just looking at it as like, if we win, we're successful. If we lose, we're not. Like, oh, I must be a crappy coach because I have more guys lose in the UFC than I have win. That can really get you down, and you start thinking like, man, I'm a crappy coach. But then go look at the other coaches that are considered the best coaches in the world. Most of the guys that they have go to the UFC, it's just playing the odds. They're not going to last.
Right.
So I think it's like, I feel like when you start to look like very narrow-minded, like at specific people, like that go, oh, well, he went and he lost, I must be a bad coach. Like, yeah, maybe. But then I think you started to look at the whole landscape, and then you realize, like, out of all the personal trainers nobody has 100% happy clients. Nobody has 100% success rate. Some of those clients will gain weight. Some of those will last for 3 months and burn out. Like, is that your fault?
Right.
Like, maybe parts of it are your fault, but the reality is when you're dealing with people and you're dealing with success, a lot of it, like, is out of your control. And, like, even if you are the best coach in the world, you're not going to be perfect.
Right.
So I think that's a good way to keep, like, perspective in mind of, like, not feeling like it's my fault, but also, like, I try to really, like, self-govern myself from not using that as a cop-out to think that, like, every interaction I have with a fighter or every run-in or every, like, maybe negative interaction or lack of success is, like, their fault, Right. Oh, it just wasn't a good fit. Like, I don't want to use that as an excuse, because I'm always trying to, like, self-govern, self-regulate, and, like, just hold myself accountable. So, and the problem is we never know what the answer is. Right. Like, is it your fault or is it theirs? It's like, all I can do is put the most effort and handle every situation with the most care and put, like, as much passion as I can into a fighter and hope it works out. And then if it does, that's great. If it doesn't, I at least can put my head down on my pillow at night and think like, all right, I did try everything that I was capable of trying.
Right. You said earlier about if you had a fighter that went into the ring and didn't listen to any of the game plan or anything you say. Has that happened to you before?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
No shit?
No, all the time. Like, you'll be like, all right, listen, like, we need to go out there and get a takedown or whatever, and then they go out there and they don't shoot once, and or like you work on.
Does it drive you crazy?
It does drive you crazy, but it's like, I know in the culture in my sport is for the coaches after to rationalize it, like, well, he didn't listen. There's not much I can do. Sometimes fighters don't listen, and I don't want to just buy into that. It's like, all right, well, how can we deliver it better next camp so the same thing doesn't happen? And then you see certain fighters have different tendencies where they're just gonna go on cruise control and, like, maybe go rogue a little bit, and that's fine. You start to understand your fighters as you go, but, like, I've had fighters that have cornered 25 times and still sometimes they go a little rogue, and I'm like, man, was that just him going rogue, or was that me, like, not addressing it, So it's definitely a work in progress, and you never know fully whose fault it is, but
right.
I don't know.
So all your time in the sport, you don't got to name names or anything like that, but do you have any, like, wild stories? Like, just the craziest shit you've seen since you've been in the fight game?
I mean, weight cut stories are always crazy, but that's, like, played out. I was on the bus when Conor McGregor threw the dolly.
Oh, no
I was
shit.
there for that. I still have a video on my phone, which I feel like if I posted it, I'd get a lot of views. But so me and Calvin were fighting.
If you want to post it on the I Am Redemption podcast.
We were at the Barclays Center, and if you go down, there's an elevator that the buses go on, which is pretty cool. So you're in like this big bus. We go on an elevator, you get in, and then there's like a turntable that turns the cars. So you don't have to drive and park. So they can turn it, and then you drive in the elevator and go up. And we were sitting on the turntable on the way after the media day. Me and Calvin sat in the first row of the bus, and we sat down. Calvin sat next to the window. I sat right here, very first row on the right side. And then the UFC is like, oh, you have to go to the other shuttle. But like, we just got on the same shuttle that we got on, so we're like, whatever. So we get off, we go to the other shuttle. And like, we got on the shuttle for maybe like 10 seconds. And then all of a sudden we just hear a bunch of screaming. So I pull up my phone and I start filming, and no one knew what was going on. And they're like, we just see all these little guys in tracksuits running around, and we see the other bus trying to move. And then we see like a guy in tracksuit pick up a big, one of those like crowd gates, you know, divider. And he like takes it, and then like a UFC guy tackled him. And then someone goes, I think that's Connor. And so I'm just like filming or whatever. And then the whole thing ended. They got that bus out of there, and then they left, and we were like on our bus. We got back, and we got to the hotel, and Dana's like, I'm so sorry. Like, you never really talk to Dana when you're like a UFC fighter. You don't get a lot of access to him. So he like waited at the bus to see everybody get off, make sure we were all okay. And he's like, I'm so sorry that happened. He'll never fight for us again. We're like, yeah, sure.
Right.
You know? So we get off, and then Will Harris. You see like there's like a famous video of like Connor being and like throwing the dolly at the window. Well, he was there filming us for that week, and then he was filming a little bit of Khabib. So he got the footage, and he's like, what do I do? Like, do I sell it to TMZ? I'm like, if you ever want to be in a UFC locker room again, because we had gotten approval for him to come in the locker room. I was like, if you ever want to film anything in a UFC locker room again, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
You know, I would give it to the UFC. And then so that's what he ended up doing. But that window that the dolly hit was the seat that Calvin was in.
No shit.
And we ended up losing that fight. So I'm like, and then there was a big lawsuit that went on between like the fighter that was there and like Connor and like the whole thing. I feel like if it would have happened 10 seconds earlier, it would have been us in the seat. We probably would have gotten a nice payoff, and we wouldn't have had to fight, and we wouldn't have lost. But that was probably like a wild moment that like in MMA history that I was part of. Right. That like everybody, remember when Connor threw the dolly? I was like, yeah, we were right there. It was almost us.
Did you realize how big it was as it was happening, or then once you started seeing it on the news and everything like that later, then it was like, oh shit?
No, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I think we knew it was a big deal, but then it made the whole rest of the week stressful, because then we all thought like maybe the whole like card would get canceled, and maybe they'd flip things around because there was the other people that were injured from the glass. Certain people had to pull out, and then they were just moving everything around. And then when the vibe in the hotel was super sketchy, because then the rest of the week, it's like all of a sudden you'd be in the lobby, and then there'd be like 30 Russians would walk in, and then Khabib would follow, and then you'd look for the Irish guys. You know, it's just so it was like a lot of like rumors going around that card's gonna be canceled. There's more Irish people coming back, and so it was like we were all like high alert. So it was hard to like focus, but it's kind of exciting to at the same time. It was a little bit of drama on fight week.
And you guys are already stressed out. It's fucking fight week. You're about to fight on a card.
Yeah, no, it was not ideal, but I think like a lot of people that don't even follow MMA like know about that incident. So it was, I think that was probably like a wild story that I was part of.
How many years have you been coaching total?
It's like tough to say, because I fought from like 2008 to 2012, and for a majority of my career, I was like running team practices. I was for the first couple years, I wasn't, and then I went to another gym, and the coaches weren't around as much. So, and I was like the older guy. I think I was like 28, 29, and a lot of the other guys like 21, 22. And I think I was like a purple belt. They were like all white belts. So I was just, naturally it was like older guy runs class. So I just started running the whole fight team and then coaching those guys. But I was never like called a coach. So from like 2000, probably 9 or 10 until 2017, I was like cornering all the fighters, running all the camps, setting up sparring, managing all the guys. And I was called a manager, but never a coach until 2017, when we broke off and started our own thing and didn't call it the Cartel yet. We ended up forming it in 2019. We gave it the official name. But for 2 years, we were just like rogue, like didn't have a team name. It was just like me, Rob, Calvin, and like a few other coaches chasing work, like going to different gyms and getting training partners and stuff like that, until we finally kind of established our own thing. But yeah, so officially, I finally started getting called a coach in 2017, but I had been coaching guys since 2009, 2010.
Been doing it.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
What would you say is your most valuable lesson you've learned being a coach and working with these guys? I'm sure that's a tough question.
I think it was a hard lesson because I'm like I'm like a golden retriever. Like I want to be everybody's friend. I want everybody to love me. I want to like make everybody happy. And I went through a majority of my coaching career thinking that like we're brothers. You know, we're brothers. You know, these guys, like, they're my best friends. You know, they're invited to my wedding, stuff like that. Like, they're my best. You know, this is like my family. We always say in interviews. And then, you know, certain things go down, and then certain like relationships change, and then I started to realize like they're my brothers, but I'm not theirs. You know, and that's like a hard pill to swallow when you realize like, oh wow, like you have this like epiphany where you're like, whoa, like I'm not, like I personally I love these guys and I would do anything for them, and then you realize like, oh, like maybe some of them, but then not all of them. Like I thought, like, you know, and then you realize like I'm a piece of their chessboard. Like these guys are my chessboard, you know, and I'm just, maybe I'm not a pawn, you know, but maybe I'm not the king, you know. And that was like I think a tough realization or a growth thing that I went through as a coach, where I realized like, oh, like part of why we're close is because I'm providing something, you know, like, but the minute you stop providing that, like when that service goes away, like you're not their brother anymore, you know? But like on the flip side, if these guys stop fighting, if they called me at 3 a.m, I'll pick up and I'll do it, you know, whatever it was. So like having that epiphany was like the first big lesson. But then even one step further than that is having the epiphany that it's not like necessarily, that doesn't mean it's unfair. You know, like for me to be a good coach, I have to treat them like they're my brothers. But they don't have to reciprocate that feeling, you know? And I have to be okay with that. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And that took me like, you know, a lot of like talks with my wife, and like other coaches that are like very high level that like I trust, and, you know, maybe a little bit more experienced than me or have more cycles than me. And like for me to like understand that like that's not like a Tyson problem, that's just like an industry fact, you know? So it's not even really a problem, you know, it's just this is how it works. That was a tough pill to swallow, but I think once I kind of accepted that, I can be a little bit like maybe more guarded with my approach on things, and like understand that like I can't take certain things personal, because at the end of the day, like a good fighter has to be somewhat selfish, and a great coach has to be 100% selfless. So I just keep reminding myself that.
And that's got to be tough, because I have to imagine that there's sacrifice with the time you put into this, how much you're here, traveling for fights and stuff like that. That's all time away from your family. And at the end of the day, like your family, those are going to be the ones that are always there for you unconditionally, no matter what. And then you invest so much into these guys, like that had to have been a tough pill to swallow. How would you say, how did you cope with that once you understood it?
I think it can consume you if you go down that road and start thinking like play the victim. Because it isn't fair, right? You know, like it's perfectly expected for me to neglect my kids for the better of the team. But it's not okay to expect a fighter to do the same, because the fighter has to protect himself. Not fair, right? But it's just how it is. And I think another coach explained that to me. They're like, nobody made me leave my kids for that extra week. I could have said no and said, hey, I'm going to come out later. You know, if we go out for a fight week, normal fight week is Tuesday to Saturday. A lot of my guys will want to go out like, you know, the Friday before or the Wednesday before. And I always like, whatever you need, and I'd go. So instead of a 5 nights away from my kids, it would be sometimes 14, sometimes 15. And like that other coach is like, well, no one made you do that. You know, you could have said no. So like, don't blame them for you being willing to do it. You can't put that on them. That's on you. That's your fault. You're going to give, like, they're going to take whatever you're willing to give. That's what their job is, you know? So I think once I realized that, then you realize like, okay, and like, then you act accordingly. Like, are you still going to go the 15 nights, or are you only going to go 10 next time? You're going to try to find that balance. And like, I think you go through that as growing pains of a growing team. And like, I'm figuring all that stuff out too. But it doesn't come with consequences, because then, you know, you try to take a step back and protect your family a little bit, and then, you know, it's like, oh, well, he's changing, you know? So it's tough. It's like, you can't, I always describe it as like, you can't be a great coach and a great dad.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
That one stings, right?
Yeah, it's heavy.
So it's like, so the way I kind of like wrestle with that one is when I'm here, I'm a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm at home, I'm a great dad. I know I can't be both 100% of the time,
Right.
but like wherever I am, I'm going to be the greatest I can be in that moment, you
Yeah.
know? And that's how I kind of like, I guess, make myself feel like less of an asshole, you know?
Right. Well, dude, you told me a story when you first walked in here. Hopefully you don't mind me sharing it, but I think it perfectly encapsulates you and what you're about. And you were talking about a fighter you were helping this morning cut weight, and he was having an issue, or no, last night, and then he ended up sleeping on the couch in your bedroom, and we went in there and woke up to your wife. Shout out to your wife, because she sounds awesome, and you're just like, hey, he's gonna be on the couch, and she just laughed it off and did that. But like, to open up your home, not only your home, but like your house, you know what I mean, and let somebody do that, man. Like, selfless acts like that as a coach is a beautiful thing.
No, I believe like, I just think you should treat everybody how you'd want them to treat you. And those actions, like, I don't recruit people to come train with us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recruit people to manage. It's like, it's all like referrals. And I think it's because
Attraction rather than promotion.
Yeah, you just like treat people in those moments where no one would know what's happening. I could have easily told that kid, just, I'll drop you off at your hotel, cut weight by yourself in the morning. But it's like, no, okay, like let's go the extra mile and like let's help him out and make sure, you know, he's not sick or whatever. Like I think like I do that and all the, you know, even when no one's seeing it, you know, those are what you should do.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel like if you just, I don't know, I just assume that like everything I do is going to be posted. I have two analogies. One, I'll use the book one. Like, it's like I'm writing my own autobiography, right? And someday my kids are going to read it.
Yeah.
Right? And all these things of like decisions that you make for helping other people and like just being selfless, like they're going to see that. Mm-hmm. You know, I hope so, right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to read it. So like, what type of character are they going to think their dad has when they go and read that book, you know? And then that kind of coincides with what we were just talking about. Is like, I hope as they read that book, they see how passionate I am and how selfless I am. And they'll realize like, oh, he wasn't just like always away.
Yeah.
You know, like he was like, he had a purpose, you know? But I just think like every decision you make, how would you want other people to judge that decision? You know, like no one would have known if I'd helped the kid to go home and he wouldn't even got mad, you know? But now he'll probably go back to his team and be like, man, Tyson really stepped it up. He like really helped me. Like, I don't even know him that well. This is only my second fight managing this kid. I don't even coach him. I'm just managing him. And like, he's like, man, he really like helped me out. So now down the road, and this isn't why you do it, but like this is how it works. Down the road, if he has that next stud come up through his gym, I'm definitely gonna be managing that kid.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be like, no, this guy is like, it's not for the money. Like I don't even charge any of my guys locally. Like no, most of these people that you see here, none of them paid me a nickel. None of them pay to train here. None of them pay me to manage them until they go to the UFC. Then I'll start charging them. And maybe the joke's on me on that one, you know. But like I just feel like I want to help these young kids.
You're about to get a flood of people.
Yeah. it's like I just want to help the young kids like accomplish their goal, and then I'll make money when they make money, you know. But the flip side of that is in this industry, it's pretty cutthroat. It's like when they start making money in the UFC, that's when all the other shark agents and coaches come out and try to get them to leave you because, oh, I'm better than that guy. It's just, I don't poach either, but there's a lot of poaching.
Yeah, that's wild.
That'd
be tough to deal with, especially when it's something you're so passionate about, putting your heart and soul into it. I'm sure this is going to be hard for you to answer maybe, and I don't want you to, do you have a couple, what are your most proud moments as a coach? Like, do you have a couple things that happened, whether it was in a fight or something a fighter did or anything like that, where you were just like, all right, this is why I do this?
There's been like little moments that I've had where I'm like, oh wow, like that happened. Like, you know, you have like these little checkpoints, like it would be so cool to get a fighter to the UFC. And then you get a fighter to the UFC. And then it's like, oh, it'd be so cool to be on the poster. Oh, it'd be so cool to be a main event. And then like, it happens, and it's never the view that you think it would be. You know, it's just another mountain range that you gotta look at. You know, it's never like, oh, we made it. You know, It's like, because I think that's what like driven people, that's our curse, right? We never get to like that one goal and then think like, cool, we can relax now.
Right.
Because now you saw, like you said, you saw another mountain that you got to climb. And so I think but when I do take a step back and I look at those moments, they are like proud moments. Like, you know, in 2017 when we broke off, there was like people laughing at the fighters. They were like, Tyson's going to be your coach? Like, what? He's like, well, he's already doing it anyway. Like, why don't I just make it official? And then like, all right, well, you guys aren't going to work. You can't win fights that way. And then like, all right. And then next thing you know, like, we're winning UFC fights. We're getting more guys in the UFC. Like, people are from other parts of the, you know, guys drive 2 hours to be here. You know, some people fly here to finish their camps. Like, so then it's like, all right, well, I thought we weren't going to work. You know, you have this chip on your shoulder of like proving everybody wrong. And you never feel like you've officially proved them wrong, but that's kind of what drives you. So I don't know if there's like one moment other than like when I just take a deep breath, take a step back and be like, man, like I did get Coach of the Year. You know, like it's a paper award, but someone saw what I was doing and thought like it was worth something. And what I'm more proud of in that same year, with only 2 guys in the UFC, we were top 3 gyms of the year. So with only 2 UFC guys and like 4 fighters total at the time, we were 2020 top 3 gym of the year. So it's like, cool. I don't know if maybe I'm just good at marketing or something, but like I mean, people see what we're doing and it resonates. Yeah. And like now, since then, like look, now we have 5 guys in the UFC. The room's growing. We have like a bunch of young, hungry studs in the room, and like the energy's it's just getting better and better. And like I think that's probably like what I'm most proud of, is just the fact that like we're doing something that in 2017 people laughed and said like, you know, that's never gonna work. Right. You know, and yeah, so I don't think it's like an individual moment. I think it's just more holistically like how far we've come. Like every time, you know, you take a step back and look behind you and you're like, wow, like we've been a main event in like 10 UFC fights. Right. You know, we were like the first wave to go to Fight Island. We were this, you know, like it's just a bunch of cool stuff.
Awesome. What if somebody is watching this and they've never seen a fight, right? And they don't even know what the UFC is. Do you have a couple of fights in mind that you would point them to make them like, here, this is what this is about?
I would say, oh man, Angel Pacheco on the Dana White's Contender Series last year. Okay. He came in here and he lost. He got dropped like.
Is he one of your guys?
Yeah, he'll be here Sunday. Okay. He's going to live at my house for the next month. He stayed at my house 6 weeks last year, and then he'll be here for a month Sunday, because then he'll fight March 30th on the same card as Connor. Okay. So he was fighting on the Contender Series to get into the UFC. Connor Matthews. But March 30th he'll fight in the UFC, same card as Connor Matthews, and he won on the Contender Series, and like within like 15 seconds, he got dropped, like just put on his butt, and then got up and like survived, and then they like made it like a pretty competitive round, and then but it was like they were slugging it out. I mean, these guys, they just wanted to kill each other. They're just going at it. Second round, he gets dropped with a body shot and almost finished. Comes back, starts hurting the kid. So he ended up losing like 2 or 3 of the rounds, but like it was the only time in a fight in my whole history of coaching that with like when the 10-second bell in the 3rd round went off, I stood up and started clapping. And I knew we lost. But like you just realize like you were probably watching one of the best live fights you'll ever see. And like it was so good to the point where like my guy lost and the UFC still signed him, because they were like, this kid's like tough as nails and skilled, like, and he did that. Yeah. You know, that would have been 100% fight of the night in the UFC if it was on a regular card. So I think like that's a fun fight that you could show someone and be like, this is what fighting is about. Like you get knocked down, but you get up. Even when you lose, you can still win. And then it's a good example of like, and it's a fun fight to watch. Like both guys hurting each other the whole time. They're both pretty bloody at the end. So I think that would be like a fun one. Because you watch a fight like that and you're going to be hooked. You're like, whoa, I want to see more of this. Right. So
I was talking yesterday with Calvin about his fight with Max, and just what he displayed that to me. Like, how can you not be a fan of Calvin Kattar after you watch him continue to walk forward and watch that never give up, start coming back, go back down and stuff like that, and then, you know what I mean, you watch people win gracefully and then, you know, hopefully lose gracefully, and it was a class act doing that, and it just, to me, it speaks so much of his character and the culture of the team you have here and everything like that. Like, it was a beautiful thing, and he's like, man, why does everyone always got to pick that one? They can't pick when I win. But it was just, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, it was such a tough night. I've never gone back and watched the fight. Really? I don't think I ever will. just being there, and it was tough, like seeing one of your, well, you know, one of your guys get, you know, obviously lose and get beat up, and it was tough because, yeah, man, a lot of hatred from that one. Like I got so many mean messages about not throwing in the towel and like just mean stuff, like, and then like that was hard because that was my first time ever dealing with like trolling. Because I go in like a couple months earlier than that, I'm coach of the year, I think my shit don't stink, you know.
Oh, damn.
And then all of a sudden like that happens, and then they're like, oh, you don't care about your fighters, and that was like, but then you realize it's just people, like you can't, like, you know, some people are just mean, but like that was tough because it was like watching it on TV, I feel like maybe it seems so obvious that I should have stopped the fight, but then like when you're there, it was like every time it looked like Calvin was getting hurt, like his back's to me and Herb's looking right in his eyes and doesn't stop it. And then going in the 4th round, I was like, Cal, you good? And he's like, because I even said to the corner, I was like, if he's not all there in the corner, we're gonna stop the fight. And I go, you there? And he's like, yeah. I was like, are you good? He's like, I'm fucking good. Like what? Like he was like annoyed that we were asking.
Right.
And he was so clear.
Right.
And I've had fighters that go into the 3rd round, they're like, wait, what round is it? You know, like, and it's perfectly acceptable to let those guys continue, you know, because they're not showing it or whatever. So it was like, how he was acting, it didn't make sense to stop the fight. He still seemed like he was in it, but it was just a tough night. And then, yeah, so that one, yeah, but everybody brings that one up because like, even like you could be the best coach in the world, you can't teach what Calvin did that night. Like the heart that he had, that's something that like I believe you're born with, and it forms to even be tougher over a lifetime, you know? Most people would have taken a knee. I think most people would have found a way out to quit. He just kept going for 25 minutes, and like, I think that's what won people over, is they're like, wow, like you have no quit in you. And I think that always resonates with people.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I didn't see it. That sucks that anybody would message you that, because like I didn't get that feeling at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could tell he's still defending himself. He's still coming, never backed down once. And that spoke more volumes to me than anything. It's like, I mean, look at the Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald fight. You know what I mean? Like it was the hardest thing seeing Rory not get back up and like that. And so Calvin never had that moment. So it's a very beautiful thing to me. So how do you deal with like this whole social media era and everybody throwing their opinion, and obviously it's a lot of casual people that don't know what they're watching or what they're even looking for? Like, do you hear that stuff, or you're just so laser focused on what you're doing?
I think you definitely hear it, but you can't let it affect you. Like I always say, like you got to treat the good comments just like the bad ones. Because like some a-hole writes you a DM and says, oh, you don't care about your fighters because you didn't throw the towel. I've had that same a-hole message me and say, the reason we didn't finish Cody Garbrandt is because I'm a crap coach. Like, you know, so it's like they're just hating if they hate. But like, if you can't make the good ones think your crap don't stink either. Like, you know, all these strangers telling you how great you are, you can't let that affect your motivation or like your workflow or your process. You just still got to keep working hard. Right. But like, so I think if you're not gonna, you got to ignore them both. You know, because I think a lot of people start to get an inflated ego based on the positive comments. Because like when I always put my phone on airplane mode during a fight. Like we're in the locker room and I'll be like, all right, I'm going dark, and I'll say bye to my wife. I'll put it on airplane mode, and then after the fight, when we're through the media and all that stuff, I'll turn my phone on, and if it's a win, my phone will freeze because it's like hundreds and hundreds of text messages and then all the other messages on the social media, like, and it'll freeze. It's like so many notifications that it just kind of freezes, and you have to let it like sit for a little while and get back to it. But when you lose, it's
quiet.
Like my wife, my sister, maybe one other. It's like a couple people.
Really?
So and at first I used to think, man, we're freaking popular. You know, look at this. But it's like, no, you're not popular. People just want to be part of a good thing. You know, but when you lose, like, they don't want to be part of that, you know. So it's, I don't know. I take the sort of social media with a grain of salt, like, but like I feel like how I've reacted to those situations is like when my friends or coach friends or whatever, when they fight, I only text them when they lose, and I'm like, hey coach, like keep your head up. I liked your advice in that fight. I try to give them like a nugget, you know, something to like, because I know that their phone's gonna be the same as mine. It's that little, man, like we just lost. Oh, man, what did I do wrong? Like, could I have done better? And now their phone's dark, and they don't feel like the hero, you know. So I try to give them something to think about. And but obviously, you know, we got sponsors. you know, we got DraftKings, we got Star Waste, we got Brunt. Like we got a lot of like good irons in the fire, and we make good money off it, which allows us to not charge the fighters. You know, like this is all paid for by sponsors. So that's the bright side of social media. So you can't just have that and not have the other part too. So you got to take the good with the bad. Like, you know, like having sponsors doesn't mean we're amazing. It just means that like we're providing something that helps them, and it's symbiotic. We're giving them something they want, they're giving us something we need. But with that comes the negative side. But the negative side doesn't mean we're terrible. You know, so you take it with a grain of salt. I appreciate it. Overall, I do believe it's a net positive because, you know, it helps other people learn what we're about. And then, you know, you get the positive messages too of like, hey, my son's been a fan of yours, and like those things, you know, he's training MMA now. He used to be overweight. Now he's like really light. His favorite fighter is Rob Font or Calvin. You know, you get messages like that, and it means a lot. Or like, you know, you'll get messages of people like, oh, I heard what you said before this round, and man, that really meant a lot to me. Like that got me going. Now I'm hitting the bag harder this week. You know, just stuff like that. So I think like you just gotta take it as a net positive and like ignore the bad and don't let the good think like you're better than you are.
Right. Do you have has there ever been like a funny moment in the corner, like mid-fight or something that happened during the fight? It might not have been funny at the moment, but then after the fact, you guys were laughing about it later?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how.
You fell out of the chair?
Yeah, locally. So last time there was a combat zone, I cornered like 5 guys that night, so I was like in and out of the locker room the whole night. And I'd been sitting in the same stool the whole night. And so I go to sit down before the fight, like I was standing up and I went to sit down, and Jake, he's our Muay Thai coach, he had pulled the chair and moved it because he wanted to sit on it. So when I sat down, I was like, whoosh, I just fell flat on my butt. That one was good. In a local fight, I was cornering a kid against another kid that I had cornered against like 2 or 3 times, so I knew him pretty well. And I yelled to my guy, but called him the other guy's name.
Oh, really?
And then the other coach is like, what are you doing? I was like, damn it. I was like, CTE, you know? I think one time in the UFC, and this is not funny, but when one time Calvin was fighting and one of the other coaches was going to go in, because we were like still kind of figuring out how the coaching staff was going to work with Calvin once we left our old gym, and there were some other coaches involved, and we were like, all right, well, we'll let him take the lead on this. And going in the first round, the coach ran into the cage and didn't bring the stool.
Oh shit!
And I'm like, fucking, this is like amateur hour over here. I remember saying that, like, I'm like, this is fucking amateur hour, like, and then we had to give him the stool, and then since that round, I've been the one that goes in every time with Calvin since then. So it was just like, you're in Boston, you're in the Boston Garden, it's a big fight your night, and then Calvin's like, just wins this first round against a 10-0 kid, and then he goes there, and the coach walks in, he's like, where's the stool? He's like, ah. So I mean, I guess like looking back, it's funny, but at the time, it was pretty frustrating.
Right. What is so when you get your time away, what do you enjoy doing with when you're not in the fight thing and you actually get a little bit of a break?
I watch F1.
Okay.
It's Formula One. I watch all those races on Sundays. Even when we travel, I'll get up at like 4 in the morning to watch races. So I have that as like a good outlet, and I have a couple of my buddies that we do like our own little fantasy F1s. We'll pick the drivers every week.
Cool.
That's a good like release. Gives you something not MMA to think about. And then traveling with the family, like I go to all my kids' sporting events that I can go to. Like if I'll leave here, I'll go to their the t-ball games, flag football games. Unfortunately, it's like my schedule's too crazy for me to like commit to coaching them. I would love to coach them in any of those things. I think it'd be fun, but it's just I travel too much. So, but I go to all their sporting events when I'm home. My boys compete in gymnastics now, so I go to the meets, and I just love like traveling with the family. Like we, probably like 2, 3, 4 times a year, maybe like 3. We'll try to go fly somewhere and be away for a week. But it's like hard because you leave for a week and then everybody back here is kind of like, it's not run the way that you want or the way that you hope it is. And then certain fighters are in camps, and then, then there's like that's the team dynamic. Then there's like, oh, you can travel now, but you don't travel during that camp, but you'll travel during mine. It's like, there's never a good time to go.
Yeah.
And I think that used to bite me in the butt a lot, where I would just like not pull the trigger on going. But now I just like trying to find that balance. I'll prioritize like booking something. And then I think worst case, if I had to miss a fight week, but then fly out to corner, I would just do something like that rather than cancel a family vacation because at the end of the day, like, you got to prioritize, you can't just always prioritize the gym and not the kids. So.
Right, for sure. So hypothetically speaking tonight, you're walking out and you're fighting for the UFC title. What song are you walking out to?
Whew. Honestly, I would probably let my kids pick.
Oh, really?
I would like ask them like, what song do you want Daddy to walk out to, and then I would walk out to that.
How old are they? If you don't mind me
8,
asking.
6, and 4.
Okay, what do you think they would pick?
Oh, my daughter would probably pick like a Zach Bryan song. She'd probably pick like Tisha Mingo. She always wants that song played. Cameron would say "Won't Back Down."
Okay.
Because that used to be Calvin's walkout song, so I had it on a playlist. So he says that's his favorite song. And then what song did Carlos walk out to? Sweet Dreams. It was not a White Snake song. It was an Aerosmith song, like
Sweet Dreams?
Sweet Dreams. Yeah. So my middle son heard that song after one of our fighters walked out to it a couple weeks ago. I played it, and now he always asks for that one. So I think he picked that one.
Those are good.
Yeah, I used to walk out.
That's
to,
all good taste, man. You're bringing your kids up right. That's good taste in music.
I used to walk out to like a hip hop song, "All the Above" by T-Pain and Mano. I used to walk out to that one, which I know is funny because I don't look like I'd like rap, but that's what I walked out to my last 8 fights. But before that, I would change it up. I walked out to "Beat It" one time by Michael Jackson because it was like the 1-year anniversary of him dying, so I walked out to that. But yeah, I think if I was to fight right now, I'd let my kids decide.
That's awesome. Great pick. Great choice. And I like that they're all picking good stuff too.
Yeah.
Well, man, I want to make sure that you're able to get you to your child's t-ball game. I can't thank you enough for sitting down with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, man, and I look forward to more than anything watching what you guys continue to do. Thank you, man.
Brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Shawn, grab some items, dude.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Dude, I ramble, huh?
No, that was good. That was perfect.
And this is sad to admit, but I know that I'm starting to trip over my tongue more. And I never boxed or anything, and I didn't get a lot of headshots, but I got a lot of concussions. I feel but I don't know, I'm 43. Is that just normal as you said? I'm noticing it too, like I'll be like, I kind of sound like Stipe Miocic sometimes, where I'm like, and I'm like, I didn't even say anything.
It's Sweet Emotion.
Okay, Sweet Emotions. Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Oh, Sweet Dreams is like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, Sweet Emotions, yeah.
Oh,
my
shit.
middle son likes that song.
I am like.
Yeah. So if I'm going to prompt you to do it, but I just want to explain it. So one thing I'll ask the guests to do at the end is to throw out some I am statements to kind of help show who they are. So it could be anywhere from I'm a fighter, I'm a coach, I'm a husband, I'm loved, I'm strong, I'm a badass, whatever you want to say. Whatever you think describes you best. If you want to throw a couple out, awesome. Cool?
Yep.
All right. So one thing I ask people to do, any guest that comes on the podcast, I ask them if they're willing to throw out some I am statements. What I think the I am statements do is, we've heard your story, we've heard everything you're about, but I think the I am statements kind of let people know who you truly are. So if you'd be willing, man, if you take a look in your camera and throw out some I am statements.